Do you ever have those days when your swing is off and you just can't make it work? That was a rhetorical question because those days happen to us all. And they're heckin' frustrating. Problem is, we're told not to make any changes on the course because it's going to cause problems. So you're telling me if I try to fix it, I've got problems, and if I don't fix it, I got problems.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Well, enough of that. We are getting off this struggle bus. In this video, we're going to talk about the 3 things not to do on days like these and the 5 things to do instead. Hi everyone, great to have you here. I'm Manu, a part-time golfer and full-time desk jobber, but only until I drop 7 shots from my handicap and gain 30 yards. Let's get going. We'll start by talking about the 3 things we usually do when things start going wrong. I call these the 3 stages of despair. Unfortunately, despite our best intentions, these 3 stages of despair lead us down a downward spiral that leads to even more despair, and eventually we end up in a never-ending vortex of doom. But don't worry, right after that we'll talk about the 5 things to focus on instead, which will get out of this never-ending vortex of doom and into the virtuous cycle of victory. The first stage of despair is confusion. And confusion usually leads to brainstorming to try to figure out what's going wrong. And now you start experimenting on a bunch of different things, but as you're experimenting, now you've got uncertainty when you're standing over the ball, which is the worst thing you could possibly have. And over time, now you start doubting things that might have been okay in the first place because your whole game's falling apart, and it starts to feel that way even though it's not really true. Now we're on to despair stage 2, predicting the future. When things start going badly, the little voice in our head starts going, uh-oh. What does this mean for my final score? Or what does this mean for my handicap? What am I going to tell my friends? Now, predicting this future is never really going to be valuable for us because we're going to be thinking about something else other than what we need to focus on right now, which is the shot. So yet another downward spiral of pain. So you end up making mistake after mistake, and eventually it just becomes a really unenjoyable game, which leads to stage 3. Wanting to quit. There's different ways to quit. Sometimes we physically quit, which is just walking off the course, and sometimes we mentally quit, which is basically giving up on the round. The problem with that is it takes us away from the most powerful story in mankind, which is the comeback story. Think of every movie that you like, whether it's a sports movie, maybe a fantasy movie, or even the all-time classics. Every one of those movies that we think is absolutely incredible is not about someone who was successful and then stayed successful and then continued to be successful. Every one of those movies is about a comeback story, somebody who faced adversity and then came back. The problem with quitting is now you're not giving yourself the chance to come back, and so your comeback story remains unfulfilled. Imagine the resilience it would build if you had the worst front 9 you'd ever shot, and then you followed it up with the best back 9 you'd ever played. What an incredible amount of resilience it would build in your mind. What an incredible amount of self-confidence for your future games. Maybe you're in a really big tournament and things aren't going so well, but you have this record of when you played the best ever back 9 after a pretty terrible front 9, and it reminds you that you can do it. This is a big deal. Don't quit before the miracle. What if the round doesn't get better? A, you'll still build resilience because adversity builds resilience. And B, you're probably thinking that right now because we haven't walked through the strategy yet. So let's talk through the 5 fixes for all these faults right now. Instead of going down the vortex of doom, here are 5 things to try instead. First, expect for bad days to happen. I mean, it's golf. There are some days that are going to be incredible and other days when we feel like taking up bowling. They happen to absolutely everyone. Just ask Jordan Spieth. Expecting that these days will happen changes our approach to them because they're not a surprise anymore. And instead of thinking of them as days that suck, we can think of them instead as the inputs and building blocks of our comeback story. And the great thing about expecting these days is we can also prepare for them, which brings us to point number 2. Step 2 is to have a written mental reset routine. Lots of things happen when we play golf, and we get caught up in all these different places, from chatting with our buddies when we first arrive on the course, to thinking about how we're gonna hit this putting shot, to maybe helping someone look for a ball, to what am I supposed to do tomorrow night? Altogether, there's a whole bunch of stuff that puts our minds into non-optimal states before we hit a shot, which reduces the likelihood that there's going to be a good shot. Fortunately, there's a super simple answer for this. Just write down a short reset routine that you can look at when you're on the course and do when you're walking between shots or when you're waiting for someone else to hit. The reason you want this written down is so it's always visible, really easy to see, and there's no brainstorming. A good mental reset routine gets the attention outside of your head to create a little bit of space and a little bit of relaxation. One that I really like is to take 3 breaths, and with each breath, relax another part of our body. So for example, with the first breath, relax your shoulders. With the second breath, relax your eyebrows. With the third breath, try to relax your ears. Other reset routines I really like are taking 3 full belly breaths, trying to watch the wind in the trees, or feeling my feet on the ground as I walk between shots. Pick 2 or 3 easy reset routines that work for you, and write them down. Put them somewhere like, say, the top of your push cart or in your yardage book, somewhere you can see them really easily. And on your next round, maybe try one every 3 holes. I guarantee it'll calm everything down and help you focus on the shot a lot more. Another thing to have written down in a really visible place are your course swing keys. I prefer to limit these to, say, no more than 4 or 5, and you can also have, say, 1 swing thought that you'd have every time you hit the ball. Course swing keys are not things that you want to remember on every shot. More, they're the checkpoints that you want to keep an eye on just across the course of a round, and the ones that are most important to you from, say, your last range session or your last session with your coach. When your swing isn't working, instead of brainstorming and then experimenting with a bunch of random new things, the great thing about swing keys is you can just come back to these 4 or 5 things, and 80% of the time you'll find that these solve the problem for you. So just do a quick mental reset and then go through 3 or 4 of your swing keys as you're waiting for someone else to hit or in between shots. If things are going really sideways, I use a technique I got from Tony Robbins called the positive stack or emotional flood. The key is to flood your mind with positive emotions that replace the negative ones that are causing issues and, helping you hit bad shots, instead of the positive emotions that you need to create strength and stability. So the instructions for a positive stack are here on the screen, but let's do one together since we're here. So take a deep breath. Sit up or stand up tall if you're standing. And as you let it out, close your eyes if you can, and drop your attention to your heartbeat. Now go back to a time when you felt super powerful. Just powerful, strong, and confident. It might have been on the golf course, could be anywhere else. Any memory will do. Go back to that moment. Just fully dive into it. See what you saw, feel what you felt, hear what you heard. Feel that strength and how you felt it all inside you, all the way through to your fingertips, down into your toes. Feel the strength in your legs, in your core. That poise, that confidence just brimming out of you. Do you feel that? Does it feel strong and powerful? That's the feeling that we want to pull out whenever we're not in a good spot. And every time your mind gets worried on the golf course, you can just take 10 seconds, go back to that moment, and refill your body with that confidence and strength before you hit your next shot. And number 5, sometimes things just aren't going to work no matter what we try. But that doesn't mean we still can't choose to have fun. One of the most powerful things I've learned is the only meaning anything has is the meaning I choose to give it. And so I choose to give every round a positive meaning, whether it's a struggle bus round or it's my lowest score ever. I wonder how much confidence and resilience and happiness would we have if we gave even the struggle bus rounds a positive meaning because we could choose to do that. Could be kind of awesome. Here's a quick summary to screenshot and save it either on your phone or maybe print it out for future use. I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed this, send it to a friend. If you didn't, send it to an enemy. That's all for today. Check out this video if you haven't yet. I like it. Stay upbeat and happy golfing, y'all. See you next time.